Last night on HBO, Brian Gumbel had a sit-down with, excuse me, not Brian Gumbel, Brian Gumbel's show, but they had a sit-down with Tiki Barber on the HBO program. It aired last night for the first time, and this is going to be Tiki's first interview that he's done. And Tiki requested, and they requested that his agent, Mark Lepselter, also be on the line, so he's there now. Tiki, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Now, Tiki, I just wanted everyone to know that they just felt that Mark wanted to be there. He was a big part of the interview last night and on HBO. Tiki, how did you, sitting and watching that, how did you feel it went?
Well, I think Armin did a great job. I respect him as a journalist because, having sat in that chair many times over the last couple of years, he allowed me to tell my story and didn't get caught up in his opinion or any other opinions. It was words. I think that's important when you try to figure out what's going on in someone's life, to let them tell it as opposed to having other people's opinions distort what's going on.
No, and Armin Katayan did the piece, and a guy who has a reputation for being a very fair journalist. You looked last night, now there was the words used like depression. You looked like you were sad last night. Are you still feeling down, or are you back feeling better?
No, I feel great, Mike. The interesting thing is very few times in your life do you stop and think about what's going on and reflect. Having that interview with Armin was therapeutic in some ways, because it allows you to talk about the things that are going on, and hopefully you can derive an understanding not only in yourself but other people. And it's like going to therapy, in some ways. There were some times back about a year ago where I did feel like I was depressed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get out of bed, and I didn't have a goal or a purpose. But it changed over the last 5 or 6 months, and now my life feels like it has meaning again, and that's what's most important for me and for my family.
Tiki, when you look back and you look at the reasons first why you quit, do you regret quitting? Did you quit for the wrong reasons, or did you quit for the right reasons?
No, not at all, Mike. And I've talked to you about this many times over the years. It just wasn't the right time for me to play the game anymore. I had lost my passion for it. I had so many other things going on that I wanted to step away from the game and do what was engaging to me. And it was fulfilling for a couple of years. I don't regret that I didn't play for the Giants for the last 4 years. Obviously, they went and won a Super Bowl, and that's phenomenal for them. But it's not something that I look back on and say, "Oh, this ruined my career because I wasn't there for that." What
is the reason you're coming back? Is it monetary? What is the reason you're coming back or trying to come back?
That's the simple answer, Mike. A lot of people get caught up in, he needs a job, he's going through a divorce, he needs money, but it's not about that. It's a redemption for me. I need to be successful at something, and something I've always been good at is playing football. And I know that I have the physical ability to do it. I know I have the mental ability to do it. And having been around the game for the last 4 years, covering it first with NBC and then with Yahoo Sports, I see this stage that I used to love. And the passion slowly started to come back as I watched the Steelers win the Super Bowl, as I went to the Super Bowl last year and saw how dynamic that was. Obviously following my brother over the last couple of years and going to his games, I realized this is something that can bring back me, and that's what's important.
Mike, if I could add to that.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. A big part of it, and there's been the cynics who just assume, the guy needs a job. As I said to Armin, and Armin mentioned to Brian at the end of the show last night, that Tiki is fine. Does he need to find gainful employment eventually? Absolutely. With 4 kids and the whole dynamic of that, he needs to have an income eventually, but. And you can appreciate this, Mike. This didn't happen overnight, where Tiki had a brain cramp one day and decided, I'm going to go play ball again after not lifting weights and doing what you need to do to be in football shape for 4 years. 2 and 2 coming together is, someone that he respects, whispering in his ear and saying, hey, man, let's do this. and then things falling in place from there, if you know what I'm trying to say.
But, Tiki, are you coming back to football because you miss it, or are you coming back to football because you just had a big failure in broadcasting?
No, you know what? I think you're going a little bit of hyperbole out there, Mike, because I didn't have a big failure in broadcasting. I think if you laid the stage as you and Chris at the time tried to, that I wanted to be the next Matt Lauer, yeah, you could say it was a failure. But I had a lot of fulfillment at NBC. I did a lot of great stories that I think had impact over the 3 years that I was there. So I don't think it was a failure. I think it was a learning experience. It turned out not to be the direction in broadcasting that I wanted to be in. But I think it's unfair for you to label it that way. I'm coming back to football.
Wait, let's stop for a second. Why is that unfair? You walked into a huge job. They set you up on a Today Show. They put you out there with a press conference in a job that, to be honest, to be fair, you were not qualified for, and in our business. And you went in there, and a couple of years later, you're out. So that's what you call a failure. I mean, there's no way around it, Tiki. That's a failure.
I think you're mixing words a little bit, Mike. My relationship with NBC started in a way that was very fulfilling. I was doing a lot of big stories, a lot of great stories, but the media world changed a little bit, and we all know that. The way that they're reported, stories are reported and filmed and budgeted is very different. It's very you're putting it in simple terms, and if that's how you need to do it, Michael, then fine, you put it in simple terms. But I don't consider my time at NBC a failure. I learned a lot. Yeah, I wasn't trained to be a network television correspondent. I was trained in doing things on Fox News for 2 years, and actually working at WFAN and WCBS, etc. It's a different animal that maybe I wasn't ready for, but not one that I'd say that I failed at. I think
it didn't work out, Mike.
No, wait a second. Forget it didn't work out. Wait a second. Let's be fair here. Let's be realistic. The guys at NBC, and I know all of them, they felt that you did a bad job, and they said you thought you were entitled. I mean, they were not complimentary about your work. Let's not run away from that. This is part of the story.
Well, Mike, if you tell me who it was and you get that person on air, I will have a debate with them. I think that's cowardly of someone to talk behind someone's back and not tell them, because the truth of the matter is, I don't know what I could have done better at NBC. I did great stories for them, and I think, if you look at the things that I've done, whether it was on the soccer team down in Clarkston, Georgia, or the girl who had mental disabilities who swam across Lake Tahoe, or doing a story on a kid from an alternative family who had 2 gay parents, those type of things resonated with viewers, and I think I did a good job of connecting with them. Whether or not the NBC brass felt that was a good enough job, I don't know. You know what? I was never told. I was just doing the job the best way that I knew that I could.
Mike, it's subjective. It's a subjective business, and it didn't. Listen, did the relationship work out as well as it could have? We all know it did not. But we're not looking back. He's looking forward today.
Agreed. But let's be honest here. I'm going to say it like it is.
Okay.
Tiki was a great football player.
Okay.
He was not a good broadcaster.
Okay.
He went to He went to the
Today
Show.
So, Mike, we're going back to play football because that's what he was great at. So let's
agreed.
talk about
But this is part of the story. Are you going back to play football because you didn't have a fulfilling or successful broadcasting career, or did you miss football?
He missed football, Mike. That's what I'm saying.
Mike,
Mark, let him answer.
Mike, your question is leading. And, a lot of people will say that you don't do a good job at what you do because you badger your viewers, your listeners. You badger your interviewers.
Tiki, that's ridiculous.
Mike,
that's subjective. I have a tremendously successful broadcasting career for a quarter of a century.
Okay.
That's like saying you weren't a good football player. That's stupid to say that.
Mike, you have a lot of people who don't respect the way that you do things. I respect you because I think you have a great knowledge about sports and about the game of football. Do you always do it the correct way? I'm not sure. Do you interview people the correct way? Because we're talking about my life here.
Tiki, you're into subjective. Tiki, you got fired from today's show. You were bounced. It's like you getting cut. What, did they renew your contract?
Mike,
did they renew your contract?
I don't think you know the story.
Guys,
and I
let's
think
move
you're putting
on.
it. You're putting it.
No,
into context.
listen.